Welcome to this Techview vlog, the first one in English, because many requested me to do this in English for my Yola C tests, and so this is the first one. As you can see here, this is my desktop and not me. So this time around I have taken some shots with the Yola C. I did not shoot someone, I just used the camera to take the shots, so don't worry. First of all, I did most of the pictures are a comparison between the Yola, the first one, and the Yola C. And then the last shot I took was also of the BlackBerry Z10 and the very, very old BlackBerry 9780 that I had lying around here. And let's first compare the Yola shot with the Yola C shot. This is the Yola shot. Basically, I used the Yola 1 to shoot the Yola C, a picture of the Yola C. And then I have a Yola C shot where I used the Yola C to shoot the first Yola phone. As you can see here, there's a difference in wide angle. Basically, the Yola has a little bit more tele, and the Yola C is a little bit more wide angle. You can see this on several other shots, but this might be not very comparable because the sensor size I think is different from if you compare the Yola to the Yola C. You can see this when I go into the details, meta information of the picture. First of all, the aperture size of the Yola is 2.4. The picture size 8 megapixels, the same as the Yola C. Go in here, you can see 8 megapixels. The aperture size, however, on the Yola C is 2.6, so a little bit slower and a little bit lesser light in. Lets a little bit lesser light in. The exposure time 1/6 of a second, which is very, very interesting because this is usually exposure time where you get blurry shots, but in this case, this shot isn't blurry. Doesn't look like blurry, and if you go in 100%, you can see it's not blurry. The Yola C shot in 1/10 of a second, more to sharpness later. The ISO speed is interesting. This is why I'm thinking, especially also when you take a look at the focal lengths, 4.2 millimeters in contrast to 3.4 millimeters. So basically more wide angle on the Yola C, as I said. But I think the sensor size is different as well. If you can see the ISO speed, because 2.4 against 2.6 isn't that much that you have to raise the ISO from 640 to 1500. This is at least what I know about photographing. Now let's go into details. 100% pixel peeping with smartphones, which is interesting as well. But I want to pixel peep because I want to show you some advantages and disadvantages of the new Yola C sensor. You can see the difference directly. Sharpness. The Yola 1 has a much sharper lens, I think. It's not the sensor that produces more sharp pictures, it's the lens, I think. It's a lot sharper, as you can see. Of course, I know software sharpening, image processing here also gets applied, and it makes a little difference. But you can see it's a big difference. It's simply not sharp enough on the Yola C. I would say it's simply blurry. You can see here the details on the camera, for example, the bubble. I can see. Get a slight hint of the color underneath this glass, which is little different as the color on top of the glass. Don't know if it's coming through this screencasting software or the screencasting video, but I can see it here. Here, nothing. I can see that there's a hole. I don't even see the camera inside. Here I can see the camera, or I have a slight tint of what the camera actually is. Here, nothing. Same goes for the speaker grill here. You can see more details here than here. You don't see anything basically. And graining, of course. if I go here, you can see there's also a lot of graining in both shots, but there's different graining. Of course, the image on the left looks better than the image on the right. This is basically of sharpness. But if you only concentrate on graining, you can see that the graining on the Yola side of things is a little bit better. Badder. It's not so good like on the Yola C. What I mean by this is the color graining is a lot more apparent here in this shot. You can see that basically here on the table, because the table is normally brownish, reddish looking, and you can see blue tints, blue dots everywhere, which is basically the color graining. Here, in comparison, you don't see it. There's no color graining. There is normal graining, black dots, as you can see here, this one, but also if I go here, you can see blue dots everywhere. Here, not. And the display looks exactly the same in real life, the Yola and the Yola C device. So on the buttons, you can see here it's graining. Let's say on the Yola C it's better graining because it's not color graining, and this is more, I would say, natural graining. It's not disturbing. It's not making the image look like shit, making the image look differently as it really was in terms of colors. So overall, I would say the Yola C looks better. Also in outer white balance, you can see here it's a little bit overexposed on the left side here, on the down especially side. Here it's also a little bit not so much, maybe because of the wide angle. Here you can see the contrast is differently. Basically, here is more contrast on the Yola C, and on the Yola you don't see as much contrast. It's dither, just like a dither filter on top of the image, and both shots look good. This perhaps a little bit too less contrast. This looks better in this little window, tiny window detail, but if you go to 100%, both look shitty. But because of sharpness wins. The Yola looks a little bit better. So let's compare some other pictures. Perhaps another example of the sharpness difference in lens, and not. I don't think it's software based, because software may be something in there that plays in there as well, but I don't think that's the software firmware is completely different on those terms of sharpening the image when turning it into a JPEG. Let's compare. I think this one is better. The Yola C against the Yola again, or the other way around. You can see here, of course, shot basically the same of the same device side by side. And as you can see here, the outer white balance is different. You get some bluish tints here on the Yola 1, which is interesting because normally the Yola has an outer white balance that goes more to the reddish or Canon-like warmer colors, and the Yola C tends to go more to the bluish colors, more natural colors, I would say, or not, at least not so much in the yellow. But in this case, I forced the Yola to go into a bluish scenery. Basically, I think it was a reflection of the skies or the sun shining through the curtain here that made the outer white balance go a little bit more into the bluish tones. And this one is a little bit more accurate in this case because you don't have this overexposure. This is basically an overexposure here. And it's bluish, as you can see here. This is yellowish, and this is more the correct outer white balance. So I think the outer white balance on the Yola C is much better than on the Yola. But if you go again into 100%, you can see here the grill. You can see little dots in here, but you can see also the graining, the color graining here, basically, which is bad. You can see the BlackBerry logo here. You can read it. Now let's go to Yola C and take a look here. Also a good shot, and in this case even better, I think, than the Yola, which is interesting. Of course, you can see here overexposure a little bit, perhaps, because you only see the black with the C and the rest is not readable. But it's basically the different angle. So I hold the Yola C, I think, underneath the Yola when taking the shot, and so we can here we have the reflection a little bit differently than here, because here it's reflecting directly into the lens, and this makes this creates this effect. But the difference here is astonishing if we compare to the last image, because the last image, the Yola C was completely blurry, and I took this shot several times of the first image and also of the of this image, and it's not the software that's not focusing correctly. So I made sure that the focus was correct and tested and verified this. But in this case, I think the auto white balance or something like this did it, or it was the focus point. Perhaps I had luck and had the focus point directly on the BlackBerry logo. I think both of those images. And in this case, you can see this is sharper. This is better on the Yola C here in comparison to the Yola. But if you go down, you can see, ooh, this is also sharp. The keyboard is very sharp. Keep in mind the focus point was around here, around the BlackBerry logo. But you can see that this is also sharp. And if you go down here, compare it, you can see this is blurry. So this is another point to my theory that the lens on the Yola C is crap, because it's not sharp, or not very sharp. Of course, you can see the bluish tints here. It's black. You see graining, of course, but it's better graining. It's a good graining because it does not change the color of the image. And this is the bad graining. So software to noise ratio firmware thingy is much better on the newer sensor than on the older sensor of the Yola 1. Yeah, this is basically everything for this shot, I think. Let's go outside and take a look at the outside shots of the fire station right around the corner here. This is the Yola 1 shot. This is the Yola C shot. In comparison, you can see again the shot here is a little bit more wide angle. As you can see here from, if you take a look at the building here, you can see that there is a little bit more that you can see in terms of windows than here. So this is directly clear. In terms of auto white balance, this is more bluish, as you can see here. This is more yellowish. The sun is different, as you can see here, a little bit. So the when I took the shot of the with the Yola C, the sun was still out, and here I think it hid it behind the cloud or something like this. You can see the shadow. The sun was not so bright in this case. But this nevertheless turns out more bluish, and this more yellowish, more warmer colors, and this more cooler colors. And this is the overall experience I have of the Yola C, that it has a little bit cooler colors than the Yola. And you can see this also when I zoom in and go to this little sign. You can see that the difference in colors here. It's a little bit more darker blue. And there's a little bit more into the warmer side of things, blue. But you can see apparently the sharpness again. The difference in sharpness here, it's sharp. Here it's soft as hell. Let's go to the sign here to see the difference as well. Of course, here the fire station, Feuerwehr. You can see the wide angle difference here. Again, sharp. Here a little bit more soft. In terms of details, here you can see a little bit more details, perhaps over sharpening of the software as well, because you can see here on the stones there are little holes in there, a little black, I'm not sure what it is, holes or something else. You can see these black dots in here. Here, not so much. You can see them, of course, but not so much in detail. Same goes to this sign here, construction site. See. And stones here, more details on the Yola because of a sharper image. And the same goes for the sign here. You can see, of course, you can read it, no problem, both, but this is sharper. Of course, because of more tele on the lens, basically, and this being more wide angle. Perhaps there's also some difference in these terms. But if you can see here, Stadt Köln, Cologne City sign. Basically, this is not so much readable here. If you go here to the actual sign of the Cologne City, you can see this is readable here on the Yola, but on the Yola C not. And it gets worse if you go to the outside. Of course, every lens, if you go to the outside, to the left or right, you can see differences in terms of sharpness. But in this case, sharp, soft. Here, a little bit softer. Here, oh my God, is this bad? This is really, really bad, as you can see here. We can see a different angle, perhaps a little bit, so I got a little more of the grain here. But you can see that in terms of sharpness, no details whatsoever on those stones. And here, details everywhere. But you can see the graining, and you can see the color graining as well, but it's not so disturbing. This lack of sharpness is more disturbing, I think. Take a look at this tree. Of course, this is also a little bit softer than in the middle where I was focusing, basically on the Feuerwehr sign. But this is ridiculously bad on the Yola C, and this is really something I got mad about, and I wanted to test it further. So I took a shot with many different cameras, many different smartphone cameras, even once from an old BlackBerry. But first of all, let's compare the Yola shot to the Yola C shot. Again, very difficult shot, because you're basically, I was basically shooting from the inside to the outside. You can see here, in terms of color, a little bit more blue, a little more contrast here, a little less, a little more yellow, a little bit less contrast. If you go to 100%, you can see the difference in sharpness. Not so much, because this time I think I was here in the middle, basically. I hope it's the middle. Let's go back. This is the middle. This was the focus point, and here this was the focus point. You can see the difference in sharpness already on the rooftop, basically the chimney here. This little chimney with an bird chimney whatsoever, metallic stuff on it. I don't know how it's called. You can see here the difference is tremendous. Sharp, not very sharp. The rooftop itself, the sharpness, the window, details of the window, not so much. Sharp, 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 soft, soft, soft. In terms of color reproduction, noise, you can see again, here's the good noise. You don't have a color change of this black. This is basically one color. You can see it's a little bit brighter, perhaps, but it has different colors, bluish colors in here, so not the correct color. You can see the difference in sensor and SNR firmware compared to the old sensor in the Yola one and the newest sensor in the Yola C. So this is basically software, firmware stuff inside the sensor, or basically being an essential part of the sensor. Yeah, what else can I say? The lens of the Yola C is bad. It's really bad, and how bad it really is, I can show you a picture of the BlackBerry Z10. Of course, also an older device. I think came around 2013, 2012, maybe the same time as the Yola arrived. No, a little bit earlier, I think. But it's, let's go to the normal shot. You can see 16:9 by default here. If you can see here, the contrast is basically the same in terms of color reproduction. You can see that this is a little bit more bluish. This is a little bit more yellowish as well, but this is comes closer to reality. This not so much. Of course, there's a difference also in clouds, as you can see here, and there's in sunlight. You can see here a white wall. Basically, this is more bluish, but this might be because the sun was hiding behind a cloud, so it is a little bit more bluish. But in general terms, it's bluisher. This camera. And the outer white balance on the Yola C. If you go to in here, you can see sharp. You don't have the, so it's as sharp, I think, as the Yola 1. Let's open up the Yola 1. Just this comparison, this quick comparison for those of us who are interested in the Yola 1 as well. As you can see here, I think from the sharpness point of view, you can see it's as sharp as the Yola 1. And you can see here the clear difference between sharpness of the lens and good sharpness of the software. And here you can see a lot of software optimization that creates this weird artificial sharpness, basically, of the image that's not seen in here. So the Z10 has a far better camera than the Yola C, and slightly perhaps better lens and slightly more optimized software when it comes to sharpening, so it's not over sharpening too much, and the Yola is a little bit over sharpening here, but this is only a side effect because we want to compare the Yola C, and you can see soft as hell, sharp. And then to the 2010 versus 2016 comparison. I could not believe this. This is the BlackBerry 9780, which came with a 5 megapixel, don't lie, 5 megapixel camera. And this basically produces better images in terms of sharpness, as a better lens than the Yola C. Let's go, first of all, the 100%. Fit to screen option. You can see here as well, it's a little bit more yellowish. This is more bluish again, but if you go 100%, it's sharp, it's soft. You can see this on the details of the chimney here. You can see, perhaps, I'm not sure if you can see it, there's a black line on top of the chimney and the rest is a little bit more brownish. And here you don't see the difference. Here it's just simply one color of the chimney. This is in terms of sharpness, perhaps color, auto white balance as well, but overall sharpness is way better on this 5 megapixel picture in comparison to the 8 megapixel Yola C. And this is, of course, more noise here. And if you go here, you can see also this color graining noise, because a camera from 2010 compared to 2016, so it has these color fringing, graining stuff, which bad graining, basically. Good graining, bad graining. But it's sharper. The lens is sharper. What the hell did Intex or whatever, or whoever built this thought when building this lens into this smartphone? Can't believe that a smartphone from 2010 in terms of image quality sharpness can beat a smartphone from, even if it's a low-cost smartphone from 2016. This is bad for, so camera performance in general on the Yola C is bad. It's, in terms of sharpness, it's not so good as the Yola 1, because on the Yola 1 you can shots from outside where you don't have too much very bright and very dark spots where you don't see the color noise. It's a good shot. You can use it also with 100%. You can use it to crop in. In terms of the Yola C, I cannot recommend you to crop in. I can only recommend you to view it on a non-4K display, maybe, with not 100% zoomed in, but just like so fit to screen. This looks good, but if you go into 100%, you can see blurry all over the place, so not very usable. So snapshot camera, basically, I'm a little bit disappointed about the Yola C here because I think the sensor shows with the good graining. This was one thing that I had in mind that would be perhaps bad, but the graining is good. So the graining is not so bad in here, even if it grains a lot, it's not so color graining, color fringing is not in here. But the sharpness of the lens is disappointing. And if the lens is not sharp and you cannot change the lens on the Yola C, it's not very good for photography. So my little comparison, I hope you enjoyed this. A little bit longer, I think, than I would have expected to make this comparison. But yeah, I took some shots and was a little bit shocked about the quality of the Yola lens. And not the sensor, as I said, the sensor basically and the auto white balance is good, perhaps a little better than the Yola one, but the sharpness of the lens is basically not there, so not a good camera, photo, smartphone, so not very usable shots. Take your camera with you if you want to have good shots, or take another smartphone with you. Even if it's the Yola one, it takes sharper shots. This is a little video test on the Yola C phone. Let's test the focusing. I can see I can get very, very close to this little Kinder Schokobon. Let's see how the Yola one looks. As you can see here, can get very close again. Focusing is also working. I can tap to focus, so it will then refocus directly. And I think camera quality is okay, but not the best. Yeah, this is a little test of the front-facing camera in vertical mode, basically in portrait mode, and I think it looks good. It's not the best, but I'm not sure if one would take a vlog with this camera, especially the front-facing camera. It has no focus, so it's a fixed focus camera. And let's switch to the horizontal mode. So now I'm in the horizontal mode of the camera, the front-facing camera, and yeah, it's working quite fine. Quality, I think, is okay, but I'm not the selfie type of guy who takes a lot of selfies, so there are of course better cameras out there, 5 megapixel, 8 or even 13 megapixel shooters with autofocusing systems. So it's a normal selfie cam. You can make video chats, as you can see here, and I think the quality is okay. White balance is okay. Yeah, it's an okay camera for front-facing camera.